Let's now take some time for business in the 217, a review of things going on in and around the Springfield business community. And to do that, we connect each and every Wednesday with Michelle Ownbey. She is publisher of the Springfield Business Journal. Michelle, we had last week off, but never a off week for business, as they are always out there providing all kinds of goods and services to those in and around Springfield. But sometimes things change, and there's new owners taking over old buildings and so on. So we've got a couple of those things going on. Let's start with AAA Insurance, a change there. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Greg. And this one came about kind of an interesting way. About a week or so ago, a gentleman just kind of randomly called us up, as sometimes people do, and he said, "Hey, I'm a AAA member. I just went over to the office on West Isles. Door's locked, looks vacant, but there's no sign on the door or anything. Wondered if you could find out what's going on with them." So made a few calls and determined that, yes, that the corporate office for AAA closed as of August 18th, but there's still going to be a couple options here in Springfield for members. Ramback Insurance Agency on Centerpoint Drive, which has been around for quite a while, actually hired a few of the staff members from the corporate office, and they've expanded their services. So in addition to insurance, they're going to offer some travel and member services as well. And then Nicole Bigley, who had been the associate manager at the corporate office, she and a couple of the insurance agents who work there are getting ready to launch a new office. Bigley Insurance Agency is going to open next week on Linton Avenue in Park South, and they will be a carrier with AAA as well. So I did not realize how many AAA members there are in Springfield, but I think they told me there's something around 13,000. So people will still have options without having to leave the community.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Everybody needs insurance, obviously, for a variety of things, from their vehicles to their homes, and if they've got toys they want to try to insure, be it RVs or anything else. Obviously, you need that product to be able to have that assurance that if something bad happens, it's covered. So good to know that the people are still going to be covered, just under a different banner. We had a story a couple of weeks ago about Pies the Limits closing, and that wasn't the only group of restaurants that were closing with a couple of investors there, but looks like that building there on MacArthur is going to get some new life.
Yeah, that didn't take long for something to happen there. As you mentioned, Chris Hankin and Vic Lanzotti had closed Pies the Limit just back at the end of July, a little over a month ago, and they were leasing that space from Corky Joyner. Well, now Ryan Bandy has purchased the building and announced plans to open what he's calling Papis Pizza and Pub. He says it's a Latin-inspired pizzeria. Now, you may not think Latin when you think of pizza and pasta, but Ryan has traveled extensively throughout Mexico and South America. He says pizza is actually very popular there, and so he's planning to bring a few of those Latin flavors along with the more traditional classics. He's going to have some Cubano sandwiches and carne asada and things like that, and maybe a little spicier sauce options than you'd find at a normal pizzeria. So he's starting the renovation process there and hopes to be open later this fall.
Well, I got one question on this. Will there be pineapple pizza?
I do not know. You could probably put in a request at this point for pineapple. He's still finalizing the menu, so this would be the time to let him know that you'd like to see some pineapple options.
Well, it's, with all the division in this country, I think that, from the Cards, Cubs to Trump and Biden to pineapple on pizza or not, these are the questions of our day. Michelle Ownbey, publisher of the Springfield Business Journal. Before we talk about the new SBJ, and I hate to spring this on you, but what can you tell us about what's going on with HSHS St. John's with an outage that's continuing? And even, we had a few weeks ago when we were off last week, of course, you had layoffs being announced with Memorial. Can you kind of just briefly give us an assessment of, I guess, the health of Springfield's healthcare sector?
Well, I think it's no secret that medical institutions across the country are struggling since COVID. There were a lot of federal dollars being pumped in to keep them afloat, and that money is pretty well dried up. Can't speak specifically to the outage at HSHS, but I can give you a little teaser regarding Memorial. You may recall they were pretty tight-lipped, and there weren't a lot of details, even as far as the number of people that were affected by the layoffs or the specific departments or positions or things like that. Dean Olson from Illinois Times has been able to get an interview with Ed Curtis and get some additional information there. And so that will actually be the cover story for next week's Illinois Times. He's also spoken to some of the people who were directly impacted. And so there will be more information forthcoming about how all that is played out.
Well, absolutely. We'll want to get a copy of the Illinois Times, but you can also get a copy of the Springfield Business Journal. How can people get their hands on the latest edition and what's in it?
Yes, the new issue is out today, and appropriately enough, the focus is actually on medicine, health, and fitness. This is our annual medical issue. We've got Angie Soul of the Springfield YMCA on the cover. Of course, she's been in the news a lot lately, but this is more of a Q&A, kind of looking at her own background and experience. I did not realize this, but actually the YMCA has been her only employer, starting with a summer internship in college at her hometown YMCA. And she has worked for the Springfield Y ever since she moved here following graduation. So that has been her entire career. And she talks a little bit about her journey there. We also have an article, again, that Dean Olson wrote about SIU School of Medicine and how they're tweaking their admissions policy in light of the recent U.S. Supreme Court decision that has struck down affirmative action in higher education enrollments. And SIU actually does better than about 90% of the medical schools nationwide when it comes to students who are members of Black and other underrepresented ethnic groups. But Dr. Jerry Cruz, the dean there, has expressed some concern about whether they will be able to continue with that, and speaks about how they've had to look at adjusting their admissions process in light of that Supreme Court decision. So you can get online at springfieldbusinessjournal.com if you want to sign up and make sure you're getting that delivered to your home or office every month, or there's also single copies available at the racks on the Old State Capitol Plaza and Barnes & Noble.
Just some of what you'll find with the Springfield Business Journal. Michelle Ownbey, publisher of the SBJ, greatly appreciate you taking the time with us each and every Wednesday, and we'll talk next week.
All right. Thanks, Greg.
It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk.